Welcome to Get Your Mind Right. Today, we're diving into your questions and insights in our mailbag segment. Thanks to everyone who wrote in. Let's open up the mailbag.
All right. It's vibe check time. Are you locked in? Are you focused? Are you ready to charge full speed ahead? Why? Well, because it is Mail Sack Friday, and today we're tackling the kind of questions that separate the rhinos from the cows. The first one we've got is from Emilee in Evansville, Indiana, and she wants to know what to do when your prospect says, "Let's visit next quarter." Do you just nod and wait, or do you stand on your business and you make sure that the meeting does not get pushed out? Spoiler alert, we ain't waiting around. Then Brad Holler in Nashville wants to know, how do you get past the gatekeeper? Are you bulldozing your way through, or are you smooth like a Rizzler in the boardroom? We're going to break down the best moves to get you in front of the decision makers. And finally, I heard from Rob Dunn in Fredericksburg. He's bringing some high level thinking to the table. Rob wants to know what my favorite book is for selling, strategy, business, or personal growth. And he gave me a couple of picks of his own. I'll drop mine and see how they stack up. So grab your full throttle mindset because we're going in like the bull rhino on a mission. Let's roll. So my first question is from Emilee Rathgaber in Evansville, Indiana. And what Emilee wants to know is when a prospect tells you they want to revisit next quarter, it's code for I'm not convinced and I don't see the urgency. Okay. And Emilee, I got to tell you, I agree with you. I think that's right. So, how do we deal with this? Well, Emilee, what you got to do is you have got to dig deeper and find a way to flip the script. The first thing I encourage you to do is to ask the right question and agree with your prospect here. So, Mr. Merchant, I totally get that. Just so I can prepare for that conversation, what specifically will change between now and then that makes next quarter a better time? Now, what this does is it really forces your prospect to acknowledge whether it's a real timing issue or it's just an excuse. The next thing, Emilee, is I want you to create urgency. You might say something like, I've seen businesses in your position lose X amount of money in savings and growth by waiting. If we handle this now, you can capitalize on this immediately. Show them that there is a cost of inaction because pain can sometimes move people faster than opportunity. And the last thing, Emilee, is I want you to shrink the next step. Instead of trying to force a full blown meeting, play some small ball with them. Say, hey, I totally get what you're saying. You know what? Let's lock in a quick 15-minute check in next month so we're ahead of the game. If next quarter is still the right time, no pressure. Lowering the barrier makes it harder for them to say no. The bottom line, Emilee, you're the queen rhino here, and queen rhinos don't wait for the deal. They charge toward it. My next question comes from Rob Dunn of Fredericksburg, Virginia. And Rob wants recommendations on great business, selling strategy, and personal development books. Okay, well, I've got a couple I'm going to throw at you, and these may be a surprise to you. And the first one is called Dress for Success by John Malloy. I got my edition of this book when I was about 25 years old. Okay. And what this book proves is that first impressions aren't just important, they are everything. What Malloy did was took an academic approach into studies to show how clothing, color, style impacts credibility, sales, and leadership presence. And the takeaway is if you look like you belong in the C suite, people treat you like you do. Now, I know some of you may be saying, hey, this is really superficial, right? This is just about your appearances and looking stylish. Or, John, you just want me to spend a bunch of money on clothes. That is not true at all. That's not what this is about. Matter of fact, it's not just about your business dress, but for all sorts of occasions. It's about sending a message on who you are. And if you're in our field, you need to look and appear and act as the part of the top professional. And dressing that part is a very, very important piece of it. Now, my next favorite book is Good to Great by that celebrated author Jim Collins. Now, this is a massive, massive book. It is also extremely good, and it's a real page turner. And what Collins did was he studied companies that outperformed their competition for decades, and he found key differences. And here's a few of them. The first one is level 5 leadership, and that the best leaders are humble and they are relentless. They do not stop. And the next thing that Collins introduced was the hedgehog concept. And what that hedgehog concept it means is that you focused on what you do best, what you love, and what drives revenue. The third big concept that Collins introduced was the flywheel effect. Okay, and that big success isn't one big breakthrough. It's small, consistent actions that compound over time. And the takeaway is that average companies chase trends. Great companies build disciplined, long-term strategies. Now, I've gotten asked a lot about this since January. Spoiler alert here, Jim Collins introduced me to the notion and the theory of what a BHAG is. Now, my friend Rob here, he put me on an extra bonus here because he gave me a couple of his personal picks. And the first one I'm familiar with. It's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Now, this is really, really interesting because sales is a negotiation, and former FBI hostage negotiator Chris Voss teaches you how to use tactical empathy, mirroring, and strategic pauses to close deals. This book is absolutely dynamite. It's stuff that you can use today. And when it is given to you from the perspective of a former FBI hostage negotiator, it really adds to the entertainment value and the overall impact. Highly recommend it. Rob's last recommendation is The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. For many, this is a seminal must read here because if you don't understand how people think, you're never going to understand and control the sales process. Now, my personal moral of the story is to read books that make you money. And the most important thing is when you get them and you get these concepts, put those concepts into action. My last question of the day comes from Brad Holler of Nashville, Tennessee. And Brad wants some advice on the best way of getting past the gatekeeper. Well, it's a great question, Brad, because gatekeepers aren't just obstacles, they're opinion shapers. You win them over, and they can become your biggest asset. Here's how. Well, in the first instance, if you're just showing up on a cold call unannounced, you've got to sound like you belong. Because here's what people do. They come in, stoop-shouldered, shy, looking down, and they'll say something like, is Mr. Decision Maker available? Instead, try this. Say, hey, is Mr. Decision Maker in? There's something I need to get to them. You got to portray confidence, assumptive, and no hesitation whatsoever. Now, the next thing is using their name and leveraging familiarity. Now, with LinkedIn and with Google, there's really no excuse for not knowing that decision maker's name when you show up at that front door. And I want to use that proper name when I do there, because if I go in, I say, hey, can I speak to whoever's in charge of your merchant services here? You've got some number approaching 0% chance of actually meeting that decision maker. But when you say, hey, I was talking to Mr. Jones about a follow-up, and I want to circle back to them today, okay, even if you weren't, it sounds like you are and that you do belong. Now, the next thing, Brad, I want you to do is to flip the script. They block you, take this opportunity to turn them into ally. You might say something like, I get that you're protecting their time. I totally respect that. If you were in my shoes, what would be the best way to connect with them? But what you're doing here, Brad, is you're making them feel important, and that's going to give you an inside track. Now, my last thing, and this is a biggie, is time it right. Call them before 8 a.m. or after 5 p.m. Okay? That's when the gatekeepers are off duty and decision makers often pick up directly. Now, here's a power tip, and this is especially for you younger reps out there. Calling before hours is very, very important. Okay? And the reason is not only do you not have to deal with the gatekeeper, most of the time the decision makers are there before the rank and file are. They're fresh, and you're going to get an uncluttered mind, and you got a chance of getting their full attention. I'll tell you a little story that won me a deal once. There's a town about an hour from where I live, Madisonville, Kentucky, and I'd been trying for a very, very long time to meet this decision maker. Very hard to get a hold of. Manufacturing plant with a couple of hundred people. Okay, I finally got that appointment with them, and on that afternoon before, I called him to confirm it. Well, guess what? There's a big snow front moving through. He says, I'm not sure you're going to be able to get here. It's about an hour drive for me. So we had a 7:30 meeting, which was before the plant opened. Got up the next morning, and sure enough, we had the snowfall. I checked the snow reports, and it's slow going. So that normal hour trip took me 2 hours to get there. The guy could not believe it that I actually showed up. Shrugged it off. Yep, no big deal. Yeah, it took me 2 hours, but just a little planning. I had to drive slow, no big problem. Well, guess who ended up winning that deal? Again, a couple of things. I scheduled this meeting before hours, and I made that trip that most people weren't willing to make without banging up myself or the car. Now, just like that, we got another Mailbag Friday in the books. You got that? No excuses, just action a day. Now you know how to keep a deal from slipping in the next quarter. We talked about breaking through the gatekeeper's wall and stacking your bookshelf with the kind of books that are going to turn you from good into great. So what's next? Well, you keep your game on. You take what you learned, you hit the field, and you charge straight towards your goals. No distractions, no hesitation. And one more thing. Hit that follow for me. You know the drill. No excuses, just action. I'll see you next time on Get Your Mind